What's up, y'all? This NBA season, don't let an injury rule out your bet. Other sportsbooks let injuries box you out, but Fanatics Sportsbook Fair Play protects all bets from first half injury. So if your player goes down with an injury, Fanatics keeps your bet out on the court. Make the switch and get more ways to win with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
Everybody, welcome to another edition of KFS X's and O's. My name is Andrew Claudio, not your normal half of the KFS X's and O's program, but I'm thrilled to be joined, or to join Mr. DJ Zullo, the defender of jump shots, the defender of Julius, I wish there was a way that I could bring in the tanking defense or dismiss that you've been doing lately online. But DJ Zullo is here. DJ, how you doing, man?
I do defend jump shots. I don't know if I'll be defending the newest jump shooter on the Knicks, but we'll talk about that in due time. Before we kind of kick this off in earnest, I want to say our condolences to Benjy Ritholtz. Obviously lost his mom recently. He never got a chance to meet her, but the way Benjy has talked about her, a wonderful woman. This is obviously a tough loss for Benjy, his family. Just sending good vibes, well wishes to Benjy and his crew. And, you know, he's going to take some time away, decompress, kind of remember a wonderful person in his life. He'll be back with us when he's ready, but we're just thinking about him and we're just wishing him the best.
I obviously co-sign all of that, DJ, and I'm coming to you about a half an hour, 45 minutes from seeing Mr. Ritholtz and some of the Ritholtz crew. We a bunch of us in the KFS clan faculty, we went to sit Shiva, and I got to learn what sitting Shiva was, and I got to see Benjy and hear about his mom and hear about the type of athlete she was. I'll let him tell you more when he's back, but he did want me to relay the message that he is touched. He feels the love from everybody. Obviously hasn't had a chance to get back to everybody, but he reciprocates all of the love that's been sent him and his family's way. And like DJ said, Benjy, we're thinking about you. We love you, and we're here for you whenever you decide are able to come back and talk about this basketball team. DJ, this basketball team was not done at the trade deadline making moves, apparently. And so let's just get out the way the actual thing that happened with their 15th roster spot, which they made possible that they could even make this move by opening up a little bit more room below the second apron at the trade deadline. This was by trading Yabusele and then trading for Jalen Terry for Jose Alvarado. They had a little bit more than a league minimum contract available to offer somebody, and they offered it to Jeremy Sochan, former lottery pick for the San Antonio Spurs, played 3.5 seasons with the Spurs, was waived the other day, is still technically on waivers. The report is that he will be joining the Knicks on Monday. A little behind the scenes because it's the Allstar break starting tomorrow. Jonathan Macri and I are heading out of town. We are leaving the frozen tundra known as New York City these days. I guess not really a tundra. It's just the concrete jungle is under ice at the moment. And we're heading to warmer places, and we decided to pre-record a pod that will air next week, our Claudio Casino check-in. And DJ, during our Claudio Casino check-in, this news broke, and we decided to pause the pod, but while we're still recording and just react to this. And I was very meh about it, that this was not very, I've never been impressed with Jeremy Sochan. I understand what he is defensively. I think he's an undersized 5, can't really stretch the floor. As a wing, yes, fine. He's a good defender. I've been more impressed with Diawara and what he's been as a wing, and Diawara is being able to shoot the ball, something Jeremy Sochan's never been able to do. And I was just very meh, and I'm being yelled at by everybody in the Knicks Film School community for my opinion of Jeremy Sochan, which is fine. We can all disagree. So I need to talk to the expert here and just get your thoughts. I've said a lot. I've laid out what happened. DJ, your thoughts on Jeremy Sochan signing with the New York Knicks?
I think I wouldn't call it an exciting move. I think your mehness on the signing is well placed. I would say that there's a couple of aspects to him as a player that I think is interesting for this team. One is, you mentioned him as like more of a 5. I think this team did need someone that could sort of vacillate between playing the 4, playing the 5, depending on matchup, depending on injury, knowing that Mitchell Robinson's going to miss games. Karl-Anthony Towns is likely going to miss games. There's going to be a need for that player. Their thought was Yabusele was brought in to be that player, defensively, to be able to guard 5s, guard 4s, obviously the shooting aspect to it as well. So when Yabusele really proved that he wasn't capable of playing NBA minutes consistently, and then after he was traded, there has been a void of that sort of archetype on the defensive end, especially in terms of like guarding up. Now, you bring up Diawara. He certainly has shown flashes defensively to be able to do that. I think at this point, if you're the Knicks and you're trying to figure out, all right, if Mitchell Robinson misses a game and we need someone to eat 15, 20 minutes as a 4, as a 5, I think you're probably a little more comfortable with a Jeremy Sochan defensively in that role than a Diawara or even a Huckporty. I think you have to price in the aspect of Sochan having a year this year that has just been a lost year. There's probably a lot of things mentally going on there that has been tough for him in a scenario that he wasn't really valued, his skill set. So I do think there's an element to this where he gets to a new place. This is a classic like second draft situation, and the flashes that he has shown defensively, especially his 3rd season, and a little bit offensively, can really blossom. Now the question is, like, will the minutes be there for him to really blossom? Probably not. And if he is playing significant minutes and the Knicks have experienced some sort of injury, that's going to be pretty devastating for them. But in terms of insurance, in terms of eating some innings, especially as we get towards the end of the regular season, where you just need a guy that when you have 3-4 guys out and you need someone to play 25 minutes because you just need to fill the spot, he could do that capably. And I look at him almost like how Precious Achiuwa would show his peak ability in that 23-24 season, where it was like too much Precious was a bad thing, but there were times where defensively, whether it was against a Paolo Banchero or in game 4 against the 76ers, where he was guarding everyone on the floor, where you just need a versatile big defender that can guard 5s, 4s, switch out onto 1s. And that type of player could be valuable in these like small instances where you just need stops and possessions are so valuable. So there might be a time where Sochan defensively really kind of shows what he can do for this team in a big spot. And then offensively, there's just going to be there's not a lot to work with right now in terms of like what he has shown, but this guy is a capable passer. His ball handling is decent. His shooting is so bad right now that it just puts such a cap on his ceiling. Will a Knicks team that has shown that they could develop shooters like be enough for him to turn this around? Probably not this season, maybe going forward. But he's an interesting piece. He's probably going to have minutes here that is going to be frustrating on the offensive end. But I do think defensively, he's a good player, even though if some of the impact metrics don't suggest that. He's a good defensive player, and I think he's going to help this team on that end, and he fits an archetype that the team just is missing.
I think the biggest thing about Sochan that I didn't consider in my initial in the moment reaction was what you mentioned as a team that recently has had an Anunoby miss some time, and Mitch is not playing back-to-backs. And you get moments where Diawara looks like a rookie, or Kevin McCullough looks like a rookie, or Elliot Hook-Porty looks like a rookie. And if he's your third center, then that's fine. If he Look, I may just be irrationally too high on Diawara at the moment. What he did against Jalen Brown on Sunday, the stat that Jeremy quoted that I just now can't stop paying attention to. The guy's missed one corner three in non-garbage time minutes all season. I understand it's a small sample size, but he keeps taking corner threes and making them. Like the sample size continues to get bigger. And no, you're not going to trust a rookie in your playoff rotation, but in your regular season rotation, can he fail first before I officially replace him? I guess from a depth perspective, would I rather have Jeremy Sochan as, like, we could have used him against Detroit when they're hitting everything and the Knicks are 4.5 rotation pieces down. And it's interesting you brought up Precious Achiuwa, because what's the thing that Benjy always used to say about Precious Achiuwa? He's an innings eater. Shout out to baseball. Like he's a number 4 starter that throws 180 innings, is not gonna pitch a meaningful inning in the playoffs, and that can be what Sochan is. Like he comes here to be your third center when Mitch is not playing. You have another option, is what Yabusele was supposed to be on the defensive end, and pair him with 4 shooters. It's going to be interesting to see how many minutes he plays with Josh Hart.
Right.
And you can get away with it,
Playing with OG Anunoby. Those two defensively at the 4 and the 5 can, I don't know, it feels like it could work. Your defensive rebounding might be tough. That's where maybe Josh Hart has to be out there. But, he does provide really interesting defensive versatility. And, you could see him in spots like be able to not shut down a Cade Cunningham, but keep him in front. Cade is one of those players where, other than Anunoby, he just can get to his spot against any Knick. And Sochan is, big enough, strong enough to where he can sort of dictate where Cade is going to go, and he might still make that mid-range jumper or kind of carve his way into the paint and make a floater, but it's going to be a little more difficult, even if he was compared to like a Mikal Bridges, who just doesn't have the strength to really hold up. So I don't know in terms of where, again, he came to, I don't know if he had other offers. I don't know if he had other options. He came to the Knicks. I guess there was like a report that he was interested in like the veteran leadership and to play for a contender, and maybe that's a piece of it. But Knicks obviously aren't going to guarantee him minutes, but I think he's probably going into this knowing that, to your point, Mitchell Robinson, Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, the fact that this team could have playoff seeding, comfortably in April, where you're going to be able to get into games, showcase yourself a little bit in a competitive environment. And then the other thing that I was thinking about, and obviously this has nothing to do with X's and O's, where you bring in Alvarado and you bring in Sochan. These are two very different personalities compared to what the Knicks had before that. And the Knicks have, I never would say that this team didn't play hard. Like, they have a bunch of guys that play hard, but they do it in a way that is, it is very much like a buttoned up, like corporate, I'm going to just grind away, but I'm not going to I'm not an asshole about it.
Right.
Josh Hart a little bit, but mostly this is a group of like really good gentlemen that are going to play hard and do the right thing. And now Alvarado and Sochan, there's a bit of asshole to them. And I think that is something this team might benefit from. And they're going to get under skin of players. You've seen Alvarado in the Philly game, like standing up for Mitchell Robinson. I think that's an element this team had with DiVincenzo, had with Hartenstein. They just haven't really replaced that little attribute. And I think it's a nice element to have sometimes.
Professional was the way I think we've described the Knicks in the past.
They're very professional.
They're professional. Yes. They're not gonna enter into any scuffle that could take away from them trying to, like, this is a job. And yeah, I would not be. I'd be lying if I didn't say this team couldn't use something like that, and I didn't feel something against the C squad Sixers when Alvarado got in what's his name's face,
Trenton Watford.
Yeah, like when he got in Watford's face, like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this since Devo did this to Miles Turner in the playoffs.
Right.
So from a fan standpoint, I hear that. You and I are two that talked to Bryce Simon last year right before the Pistons series, and we were like, this team has the habit of being punked entirely too much, and we've seen them get punked by the Pistons so far this season in at least 2 games, one of which I personally don't take as much stock in because of who was playing for the Knicks. But now, look, these are now 2 depth pieces that they've added at the trade deadline. I think that's really the biggest thing I'm most impressed by, is that I saw all the fake trades. I don't reply to everything. I know everything I get tagged in. I saw the fake trades that ended up with the Knicks getting Jeremy Sochan and Alvarado at the deadline. And it had this first-round pick going out and these seconds, and we lose Diawara and we lose Shamit, and it's like, I didn't really want to do all that movement, and it's like just Yabu in 2 seconds, and you get Jeremy Sochan and Jose Alvarado. It's a job well done by the front office to add 2 depth pieces. 1, maybe 2, end up in your playoff rotation. So yeah,
last thing on Sochan, just in terms of like the offensive ability, good offensive rebounder, that'll fit. That's a real skill. The other thing is he's comfortable with the ball in his hand. So if you'll see the Knicks get into trouble where if they are running a lot of their DHO stuff and you'll see this with Mitch a lot. You've seen him with Huck Porty, where if they're pressured by their opponent, it can really make that DHO transition or the handoff much tougher. Sochan is comfortable in that spot to where if that overplay is occurring, and you've seen Mitch sort of dabble in this a little bit, just turn the corner and get downhill. If that overplay is happening and you don't have to just run the action, you can counter it by your reverse spin, get downhill. You can maybe get a layup or dunk out of it. So, you do like the passing upside with him. Now, if the shooting never comes around, then it just limits everything else, because then who's guarding you, you're being played off of. You don't really get to tap into that skill set. So that's why I'm saying if he can figure out the shot a little bit and just be competent there, that just opens everything up. But even if it doesn't, offensive rebounding, a little bit of passing, decent ball handler, and then versatility defensively, you could sort of carve out an NBA rotation spot doing those things. And it might not be this year, but going forward, that's probably the reasonable upside for Jeremy Sochan at this point of his career.
Gonna check in with the chat real quick, because I think there's some good contributions, and we have some super chats to get to before we get to some other topics. Capo 1291 could have used Sochan against the guy like Siakam.
Yes. 100%. I mean, Knicks have just, even when Anunoby is healthy, they just solving the Siakam matchup has been a multiple year problem for them, even going back to obviously the Toronto years. So having a guy with a 7-foot wingspan that can move his feet is probably your sort of archetype that can maybe slow down a Siakam. That's sort of like what Achua was. Achua was brought in to maybe do, is have that defensive versatility, and that it never really worked because he was just overextended minutes wise. But you just kind of throw him out there and to try to tamp down on an offensive player that's having a good night. That's what you like to see, and that's something that Sochan is probably capable of doing today. So it's a good point.
Another one from the chat, Slow Runner 14, same. I would like to see Sochan match up with Cade.
Yeah, and I've seen him guard De'Aaron Fox and limit him, and his agility side to side is a really underrated skill of his, and you combine that with the wingspan and just the defensive technique, and putting him, a guy like Cade, can really, it seems like a matchup that would suit him well, because Cade is not a guy that's going to blow by you. He's going to try to methodically get to his spots, and he just uses his, up fakes, his shoulder to sort of root his way into the paint. And against a guy that he's stronger than, which is 90% of the players guarding him, he can get there. A guy like Sochan can probably do a better job than anyone on this Knicks team other than Anunoby in sort of keeping him at bay a little bit. So the question with Sochan is just going to be like, can you get him on the floor offensively and be comfortable with him? That's against Detroit. It'll be very tough. I'm going to just tell you, the Knicks struggle when they have their offensive unit, like the full health offensive unit against that Detroit defense. So to put Sochan in that mix, then you're really limiting what you're going to be able to do offensively. So that'll be the big thing. That's why you're probably not going to be able to do it consistently, but late game possession. And you've seen Mike Brown go to a lot of, late game spots where you're subbing out, you're bringing in your defensive unit. That could be an area where he can make an impact right away.
Armand Birdnodge, second to last comment here. Is this the most mid NBA player to ever get a show?
Well, it's not a full show, Armand.
No, just the open. Yeah,
just the open. We will transition to other things. Andrew's got a nice list of topics to get to. But we have. I mean, this is real news. It's breaking news, and he is a former lottery pick. And when you are bringing in a former lottery pick in a second draft scenario, that merits some discussion, because he's even if you are down on the move, or at least nonplussed by it, I think you have to acknowledge that there's something there. There's talent there. The question is, like, how do you bring it out of him? But we'll transition quickly, Armand. Don't worry.
And last but not least, a super chat from Jeff Talon. Thank you, Jeff. Love the show. My question is, do you think with the addition of Sochan, Brown will extend the rotation to play Diawara and Sochan at the same time?
Even though Diawara has shot the ball well I think the overall offensive package right now is not good enough to where you can pair him with Sochan and feel good about that.
That's where I am. That
would be tough. I think Sochan's minutes are going to come primarily when there's a need for him to play 15-ish minutes at the 5 because the Knicks have an injury or they're just holding Mitch out. I think that's where you're going to see where he's going to play. Maybe you'll play him against like a team that the Knicks just have a significant advantage, or late games when the game is over. But in meaningful action, I just don't know if you're going to get time with those two players. I just think you're going to be so limited offensively.
And then just a quick super chat that came in before we started recording, because this is what Kevin Danishevsky does. Yes, Mikal Bridges will sneak onto all defensive team. Good old GMAC smiley face emoji. He put a comment last night that he guarantees, I think is the way they phrased it, that he's pretty sure that Mikal Bridges will get to be the Knicks representative on all defense. And I put into the chat, we haven't cursed yet. Well, I guess you said asshole, so I can. You opened the lid.
I did.
I responded into the chat, Kevin, what the fuck are you talking about? And I then decided to indulge in the DMs that he constantly sends, and I was like, all right, explain your argument. I will retract and just say, the argument is that there's so many different players that are not going to be eligible for 65 games. The Knicks representative, like, there are two representatives for all defense. If you're looking at their top 10 defensive rating, or about to be top 10 defensive rating, and their two representatives, OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, might not be eligible, especially if this Anunoby injury lingers even further and he misses, enough to not be eligible for an all-defense team. And so if the logic is that at the end of the day, there's just like Wemby's not going to play enough games, Chet may not play enough games, Mobley might not play enough games. If that's the logic, that by default he'll be one of the 10 guys left, fine. You're not arguing that right now, Kevin, Mikal Bridges should be the Knicks representative for all defense. I also just have to flex a little bit, DJ. Having talked to a couple of voters, he is not regarded as one of the 10 options right now for all defense, I think it would be a very big long shot, to the point where Mr. Danishevsky and I now have a wager on this season that if Mikal Bridges makes all defense, he has to buy Sean wings at the next watch party. It's right, Sean, I got to let you know this. You're now part of our bet.
Unbeknownst to him, he has no idea.
Unbeknownst to him, he has no idea. This is how he finds out. Because he was like, "Are you coming to the next watch party?" And I was like, "Probably not." And he was like, "Oh, well, I was going to say wings." Like, yes, that's the deal. If the Knicks win, if Mikal Bridges makes all defense, you have to buy Sean with the W wings at a Knicks Film School watch party. Okay, DJ.
Yes.
I have 5 topics. You can tell me which one you want to go to first. The first, I'm just going to list all 5. Actually, we'll go 4 because the first one's kind of vague. It's thoughts through the All-Star break. Well, that's all this is. So it's 4 things. You tell me which one you want to talk about. Is this Diawara thing real? Jalen Brunson, in all caps, BALLHOG. Karl-Anthony Drummond, ? And how to fix tanking. Where do you want to go first, DJ?
Let's go with the Jalen Brunson BALLHOG topic.
Okay. So the other night, Jalen Brunson shot 14 of 31 from the field, had 40 points in a Knicks loss to the Pacers. I simply made the note, yes, he has superpowers. Would have loved him to not call his number or gone full hero ball down the stretch of regulation and overtime. I think collectively, everybody had a version of that reaction. Some went a little far with that reaction. Some went to a little extreme. Some narratives might have gotten put out there. And for those who don't think so, these guys are online. It was not a mistake that Jalen Brunson had 6 shot attempts and the Knicks had 40 assists in the next game. DJ, your thoughts on that whole 24-hour stretch where it seems as if some of the Knicks fans and Knicks faithful turned on the captain?
Yeah, I think it's been going on basically since the playoffs in 22-23, where Jalen Brunson sort of has this responsibility, and I'm going to use that word specifically because we're now 2 coaches that are empowering him to do this, and their empowerment might not lie in a play call, but it is in here's what our priority is. And this is, I think, if you look at any coach that has coached great offensive talent, especially offensive talent in the guard or wing position that can control the ball when it's in their hands, they have typically, you could say, devolved their offense, but they have changed their offense late in games to where it becomes sort of this hero ball aspect, to where the number one priority of all these coaches, and this is not 1 or 2, this is like across the board, their priority is get a shot on goal. They don't want 3-4 passes and a risk of a turnover. They're not going to want to put the ball in the hands of maybe a guy with a mismatch because you're not comfortable with that player making a play if they send 2 and you're worried about a turnover. Their goal is, let's put the ball in our best player's hands. And yeah, we're not going to get the most efficient shot out of this, but we are going to get a shot. And when you look at Jalen Brunson, the shot making obviously is like elite in terms of like just getting to a spot to where he can make a reasonable amount of those shots that he's going to take. But the other aspect is he never turns it over. It's like his turnovers are down this year, and he's just leaning into this idea of like, I can get a shot when I want to. And while doing that, I'm going to like make the risk or the odds of a turnover so low that I might be at a better spot than most players, even if you're comparing field goal percentage to field goal percentage, because I'm not going to turn it over. And that's a big thing for coaches. So when you're Mike Brown and you have this situation where Jalen Brunson has the ball in his hands and it's late in the game, and Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think this is where a lot of the criticism fell, is that he has Karl-Anthony Towns being guarded by it's Micah Potter. Is that his first name?
Potter's the last name. Yeah.
Potter's the last. We'll just go with that. Yeah. Potter.
Harry Potter. Yes.
There you go. He was being guarded by someone that should not theoretically be able to match up with him. If you're Mike Brown and you've seen Karl-Anthony Towns game after game, hook, grab, fall, trip, turn it over here, offensive foul here. Are you comfortable with Karl-Anthony Towns late in the game getting a shot on goal? Now, the other issue is, do you just have Karl-Anthony Towns screen for Jalen Brunson? Maybe you get a switch. Maybe you get a reaction based on Karl-Anthony Towns' gravity as a shooter. That's where I think there's fair criticism there, because a lot of the Indiana game was Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart as the screener versus Karl-Anthony Towns, because they were trying to get a switch to get Nesmith off Brunson, to get one of the other, whoever's guarding Hart, whoever's guarding Bridges, to switch onto Brunson. The Pacers did a really good job of not allowing that, and Nesmith, for the most part, was able to stay in the matchup. I think once that happens, then it's just a matter of getting a shot up. And I thought the majority of the shots that Brunson was getting, especially that one in the end of regulation where he's going to his left and he has Nesmith beat, because he gets into that 1-2 pull-up right around the left elbow, and he rims out, and then Hart's right there for the offensive rebound, and it kind of just hangs on the rim a little bit, and Nembhard tips it out. Excuse me. So I think the shots were quality shots based on the time and possession of what you typically will see in that spot. You just didn't make enough of them, and I think that's where it's a make or miss league. But these are just what coaches do, and I think we have to just we want like beautiful flowing offense, but that just, I've been watching the NBA a long time. It always ends up this way, in the star players' hands late in game for some sort of isolation possession, maybe a 2-man game, but it's not going to be the beautiful offense, because they don't want to have a turnover. They don't want to have a loose ball foul. They don't want a off ball foul. They don't want to, screen that gets called. They just want a shot on goal. And I think that's where coaches are going to sort of lean into. Brunson's going to make more, play better in most of these games. He just missed a lot of the shots. I think fatigue was a part of that, but I didn't have a huge problem with it, because I think this is the way the game has been played for years. And I think for good reason, because the value of the shot getting to the rim is just, it's never more important than late in the game, because you just can't afford a turnover, and Brunson doesn't turn it over. So you get that advantage too.
So I don't disagree with, I want to say like 99% of what you said. And I think, look, it's important to point out, I'm so glad you did, that this is now the second coach that their crunch time offense, or their crunch time option is, okay, Jalen, like, you take over. Every screen that we send is for you to get a mismatch, for you to get a different defender on you. We're not really calling a play for anybody else. You're the captain here. Take us home. So this isn't just like a Tibbs thing that we screamed about all throughout the months of February and March, as he was earning his Clutch Player of the Year award. What I will say, and I guess it's the only pushback I have, is that I have no issue with Jalen getting his defender on his hip and getting to the mid-range, that floater that he's just become so patentedly good at. The straight-on jumpers that he isn't able to get by his defender, and he just rises up, those bug me, and it's just forever gonna. I understand exactly what you're saying about putting the ball in Cat's hands in crunch time, right? Especially with how he's played this season. I guess my question would be, when Cat sets the screen and successfully does an offensive foul, he rolls or pops and he's open. It just seems like Jalen never hits him. And there were 2 instances in the Indiana game like this, where Cat sets the screen, Jalen goes left, Cat pops, he's open, and Jalen just doesn't hit him. Like, those are the only things. I was not rejecting the offensive process as a whole, or the strategy of let your best player have the ball. It's the one too many times that I'm simply commenting on,
That's fair. And I mentioned that Karl screening needed to be more within the game plan. And you're right about Brunson not seeing Cat. It's a blind spot for him. And I think there's like 3 aspects to this that make him more susceptible to missing Cat on that pop. One is like, at 6'1" and you have 2 on you, it's just a very hard read for him. in terms, not the read itself, but it's a hard pass to execute. If he doesn't have, and he has shown it every now and again, but if you don't have that behind the back, if he's going left, cat's popping out to his right, you can easily behind the back pass that one single dribble. And if you can make that pass, that takes away what would be a closed window if you're trying to like lefty hook pass it or jump pass it to where you have two defenders kind of, all encompassing you. If you behind the back pass that, you can typically elude them and get it to him. He just isn't comfortable with that pass. That's like, what pass Steve Nash threw all the time.
I was about to say it's a Steve Nash to Amari. Amari. Yeah.
It's a crit because again, Nash was about the same height. It's a way to open up a passing window that's not going to be there. So that's a big piece of it too. And then this is the third thing is like he is, and this is you get the advantage of this, and then you feel the brunt of it when it doesn't work out. But he is so wired to score that he has to make this conscious effort to not do that, which to your point was why in Philadelphia he went out of his way to not score. Now that would have been different if the game was close. I think he would have leaned into obviously him putting the ball in the basket a little more, but he's a score first guard player, whatever you want to call him. Mm-hmm. And the chemistry as a passer with Cat is just never clicked. And I think there's skill issues there's size issues, but also just like the mentality is such that he is going to call his own number maybe more than you would hope for. But if you look at it as a whole, over a large sample size, I think the Knicks should be, pleased with the outcomes, generally speaking. When they don't work out, it's glaringly bad. But when it does work out, it's glaringly good in the other direction. So I think that, but overall, I think you've gotten more good out of the Brunson crunch time stuff than not good. And I think you just have to continue to trust him with the ball in his hands to get a good shot out of it. And like I said, other than the ones you brought up, like the top of the break three that he took against Nesmith, to me, that was like, it was a bad shot. And I think that's where the fatigue I thought really came in. Like Nesmith really makes him work in a way that is clear and visceral. And I think he just didn't want any part of that and for that possession. But for the most part, he can figure out a way to get to a really good shot. You saw it against the Boston series in last year, game 4, constantly getting to his spots, games 1 and 2 in Boston. So he can do that consistently against really good defenders. It just didn't work out against Indiana.
So next topic, you want to go, is this Diawara thing real? Karl-Anthony Drummund and how to fix tanking.
Let's go Mo.
So Mohamed Diawara this season, the 51st pick in the draft. By the way, Micah Potter is his name. I should put some respect on his name. He's had 2 very good games against the 2 New York teams as the Pacers play their way out of. I guess they can get a top 5 pick, but if they keep winning, that pick is going to LA. That would be terrible if that happened. So Mohamed Diawara on the season. Again, taken with the 51st pick in the draft, is shooting over 40% from 3. Diawara, cleaning the glass, filters out garbage time. He hit 2 threes when the Knicks were up by 40 last night. So filters out garbage time, not crunch time. He hit 2 threes that were corner threes yesterday, so they don't count. But on cleaning the glass, he's 12 of 13 from 3 in the corners. He's missed 1 this year when it hasn't been a blowout. That to me, just as a stat I'm monitoring. On the season, he's shooting 41% from 3, has shown flashes of being a pretty good defender with his wingspan and his size, has shown flashes of being a decent finisher as well. Is this Diawara thing real, DJ Zullo?
Yeah, he feels like a rotation player right now. And that's a definition of real to me. I feel like there was points early in the season. I remember there was a Charlotte game where he made like 2 or 3 high energy, like hustle plays, like back to back defensively. And it was like, wow, this is interesting. And then on the offensive end, it just like, you could see the rawness. And this was like 3 months ago. And it just feels like the development offensively from then till now is exceptional. Not just the shooting, but just the comfortability with the ball. And that was something he showed in Europe, something he showed in Summer League. He just, for a guy his size and his age, like just had a comfort level with the ball in his hands, especially in transition, that just sort of transcended like what you would think of a player that was purported to be like a raw project being drafted. So that was kind of always there, but that's gotten even better. His screening for Brunson in the Boston game, I thought was excellent. Like to be clearly not a thing he has been asked to do, and to be able to do that in against a really good defense, and to have to work in the short roll with Jalen Brunson. I mean, that was really impressive. So it just feels like there's enough offensively to where he's being guarded a little more. So like the spacing aspect is going to be real. Look, he doesn't like get to the rim in terms of breaking down a defender. He can't do that yet. I know he had the one post up against in Boston. I forget who the defender was. Shireman. Nice little flip shot, kind of half hook, but there's just not a lot of self creation there. But floor spacer, as I mentioned, that's there. Transition player, I think he's got some ability. So like the offensive ability, I think is solid right now overall, total package. Defensively, there are moments where he clearly is in the wrong spot. There was one in Boston where it was a side pick and roll on side opposite of him, so he's on the weak side, and his job is to be the low man help, and the player just directly in front of him, which was Shaman, has to zone up the weak side. So he takes whoever the pass goes to the corner or the slot, and then Diawara helps down. Diawara stayed out of the paint to help on his corner man, even though Shaman had the responsibility to zone up those two. And then the Celtics got a dunk out of it. So that was an example of just not being in the right spot defensively, which I think is probably happening more than gets talked about, because you look at some of the defensive on off, the metrics, they don't love him right now. And I think that's probably some of what's happening there. But in terms of him just guarding the basketball and showing his length as a help defender, especially in those driving gaps, I mean, it's really good right now. What he did against Jaylen Brown in terms of ball pressure, 94 feet, staying down in a stance, using that length, contesting without fouling. I mean, there's just like, he defends on the ball like he is a 25-year-old vet, not a 20-year-old rookie that was in Europe last year. So defensively, I feel like there's enough upside there to where you combine that with the shooting, and it's just like he's a rotation player in the NBA right now. And he's doing it on a team that has visions of getting to the finals. That's even more impressive. So I don't know what the ultimate upside is, like, because there are, and I know I'm kind of rambling here, but just to give you the full thought package of what I'm thinking about, the way he moves offensively and defensively, side to side, agility, his sprint speed, I think is elite for his size, like just getting from point A to point B. But if you watch him as a finisher, it is a lot of below the rim attempts. I don't know how many dunks he has on the season, maybe one or two, but he just doesn't seem like a guy, and maybe this will come, that is comfortable or has the ability to really explode off 2 feet. Like you'll see like an Anunoby will catch the ball under the rim and he is dunking the basketball with two hands. Mo just at this point doesn't have that ability, which is another limiting factor, like in terms of his ceiling. Good athlete. I would call him a good athlete, but not a great one. And there's certain areas of his game where he is a below average athlete for like an NBA wing, but the size is legitimate. I mean, it's just like, it's overwhelming to some. There was a possession against Derek White where he just absorbed the pick and roll, had his like big right arm sort of like taking away the shot and the pass to the opposite corner, and just White had nowhere to go and he just towered over him. And it was just a very impressive possession there. So to think he's a rotation player, and I think that's a fair sort of description of where he is now, is a massive win for this front office that needed a draft pick to hit this year. And you know, if he keeps developing, then we're talking about a guy that's just going to make a lot of money in this league, because players that can sort of show these flashes, if you can iron those things out and they could become consistent, it it would be one of the great draft picks in the history of the franchise if he really like hits like the 99th percentile like upside. But even if he doesn't, and he's just a rotation player for the next 10 years, it's just a huge win for a team that needs to find cost-effective, cheap players that can kind of fit in for the next like 2-3 years while this team gets really expensive.
So, first of all, you're never rambling. That was outstanding analysis, DJ.
Thank you.
I think I speak on for everybody where we just I forget I'm co-hosting with you sometimes. It's like, I'm just gonna sit back and listen to DJ talk about the
do you ever just feel like I have this like internal clock?
It's the clock. Yeah.
And I'm like,
you also did radio.
Yeah.
So in your mind, I should be passing the ball back, but no,
right.
I'm
Okay.
magic here today. I just go get it.
All right, fair enough.
Like,
All right.
yeah,
Thank you.
I guess I'm more like Stockton Malone, but I don't think either of us want to be either of those people. So
No, don't do that.
We'll go Magic and Kareem today.
Let's go Magic.
We'll do that instead. Look, all I'll say is I was very wrong about my dismissal of the draft night hype around him, and like shout out to my buddy James Edwards, who has to live with that tweet every single time Diawara.
He won't delete
anything.
it. Give him credit.
Listen, I've talked to him about it. We were all being told the Knicks don't have a coach. They don't know what they're doing with the 50th pick in the draft. Yeah. So this was not meant to be a rotation player. And then they trade the pick, and it's like, so they even traded out. And as we've known all season, they were hundreds of thousands of dollars against the second apron. Then I go to Summer League, and I see Mohamed Diawara with the team, and you did some of the games on the post game, and I'm in I guess Cox Pavilion, the building next to Thomas and Mack Arena, and the one Nick that stands out is the tallest one that just looks like the biggest adult in the room, and it's like, wait, that's the rookie that they just drafted, and it was so obvious that this was an NBA body right away.
Right.
And here we are 6-7 months later, right? 6-7 months since July. Yeah. I am just, he's the most intriguing young player, more than Tyler Kolek, more than Kevin McCullough, obviously more than Huck Porty. They might have found something here with the 51st pick in the draft. So credit to Walt Perrin, without a coach, finding what the team might need to fit this system. And I'm blown away that this is where we are with Diawara right now.
Yeah, and shout out Peter Patton, Knicks shooting coach.
Yep.
Got Diawara shooting 40% from three, Josh Hart shooting 40% from three. So maybe there's still hope for a Jeremy Sochan.
Jeremy Sochan, there you go. Yeah. Wait till Mitch starts shooting. We've seen how Porty takes some threes. Wait till Mitch puts up his first three.
Yeah, right.
And we're just like, this guy can do no wrong.
He can do no wrong.
Two more topics, DJ.
Well, give me the Towns ones. I'm interested.
Karl-Anthony Drummond, I've been making this joke consistently because the Knicks have just turned him into Andre Drummond. They don't call plays for him anymore, partially because he keeps hooking on his drives, partially because when you bring him into actions, he commits offensive fouls on the screen. That's how he fouled out in the Pacer game the other night. In the last 12 games, the Knicks are 10-2. During these 12 games, Karl-Anthony Towns is averaging 15.5 points per game, 12.9 rebounds per game. This would be a great season if he were Andre Drummond, former Detroit Piston, former Chicago Bull, current Philadelphia 76er. Was a rebound machine, and Cat has been a rebound machine over these 12 games, but it's weird that the Knicks' most successful stretch since that sky is falling stretch, how they've turned things around, is just basically to make Cat a bit of an afterthought on offense. That's my perception of it. What are you seeing with Karl-Anthony Towns these last 12 games, DJ?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to... Well, before we get to maybe some of the concerns, let's talk about the rebounding for a moment, because I think he's been an elite rebounder his entire career, and since obviously it's been better since he came to the Knicks. He is not just he's an incredible rebounder, and it's like I was thinking about it the other day against Boston, where we always talk about like him and his how good his hands are, whether it's shooting touch or catching an off thrown pass, like he can get it at different angles, just like excellent hands as a big player, like one of one. that has to be one of the reasons amongst, many others. But the fact that his hands are so good, he just vacuums basketballs. And there's times where he'll ward off a offensive rebounder, would-be offensive rebounder with one arm, and he is just taking basketballs out of the air like he was like reaching for like a coconut or like an apple out of an apple tree. Like he's just like, he's got these massive hands, but there's a softness to them to where balls just like once he's in the vicinity of grabbing it. And it's getting weird. Like the description of this with grabbing things, and
I heard it too.
I know. I'm letting
you dig. It's okay.
I appreciate it. There's just a lot of balls in the air, and he likes to grab them. He likes to grab them. He likes to grab them. He grabs a lot of balls, and
he grabs the balls out of the air.
That's his job. And listen, it's been how he's maintained like a really good on-off. I know that's been going around. Like his on-off numbers are phenomenal of late. Despite some of the shooting and the scoring issues, and he's always been, in terms of the impact metrics, a better defender than maybe his reputation would suggest. His rebounding is special. We should acknowledge that. The other side of things in terms of like where he is as an offensive player, I did like in the 76ers game, and it should be noted that he was primarily guarded by centers in that game, but the Knicks did give him possessions at like the top of the key to where, the threat of the shot and his up fake is really good, allowed him to get some driving angles, and the Knicks did a really good job of spacing the floor for him. And he finished, I don't know what his finishing numbers ended up being in Philadelphia, but it felt like he was getting to his spots, finishing well. Probably could have had close to 30 points if he had a full workload. Only played about, I think, 28 minutes in the game. So I thought that was a positive. I do think that Brown does have a responsibility here to maybe lean into Cat as a post player against some of these smaller matchups. I know he is petrified of like Cat's reaction when they send two at him, and they send doubles at him all the time. And I think teams realize this is not because he is such a dominant post player. He's not. They don't fear him as a passer with his back to the rim. And I think that's where Cat's got to be better. But if you can sort of build in some post-ups for him, I think it'd be a mental advantage for Cat to be able to feel that sort of support from his coach. But also I do think it could be decent offense for this team. And look, if they play Detroit, it's going to be a lot of Tobias Harris guarding him. You need to be able to access points and offense in possessions where that's the matchup. And it's not going to be Jalen Duren this year like it was in a lot of those games in the playoffs last year. So if they play Detroit, how are you going to generate points? It can't be Jalen Brunson hero ball against that team for 4 quarters. It won't work. So that's going to have to be part of the puzzle there. But it's funny, the 3-point shot has gotten better, but it just hasn't been there this year consistently. And it's just been a weird thing for him. And the finishing has gotten so much worse. The putback percentage, like he was one of the best in the league at generating great offense when he would get an offensive rebound on that initial putback. That's cratered this year. His driving field goal percentage has dropped this year. So either he has seen a massive diminishing of skill and talent from last year to this year, or he's dealing with some kind of injury, but something is kind of limiting him in terms of his overall efficiency. It can't be just the offensive scheme or how the coach is deploying him. There's something else happening there. I just don't know what that is, but I would agree that is a concern. But his rebounding and overall defense, I think, has been, for the most part, a pretty positive area for him this year, and it's helped keep his value high as his shot and scoring has not been there this year.
Karl-Anthony Towns, his rookie season, shot 34% from 3. He never shot lower than 36 after that season. over the next 9 seasons. This year, he's shooting 35% from 3. So it's the first time since his rookie season that he shot this low from deep. And then from 2-point, he's shooting 52.1% from 2 with all the poor, 16th percentile rim finishing that he is this season. 52% would be his career low from 2-point percent this season. So, yeah.
It doesn't seem like he has the same lift and same explosiveness. So like those drives, he's just there's just more contact there that I think he has a legitimate complaint. For whatever reason, they're not calling hand checks ever when players are legitimately hand checking him. You can put your arm or you could put a bent forearm into the hip of the offensive player. If you're on the side, you can do that. You are not allowed to put hands on the front of an offensive player, and he consistently has that, which is why he hooks which I get he has to stop that, but I think we need to also acknowledge that he gets a tragically bad whistle almost every game, and he doesn't handle it well, but that doesn't mean that he is not being unfairly refereed, I think, at this stage this year, which is just the reality of things right now.
Tragically bad whistle, and it's almost like I am never ever going to have a Mike Brown versus Tibbs ever, because I just don't want to exist on the internet. But we saw Cat, or really Tibbs, whether it was Brunson, whether it was Cat, he would just go to bat for his guy, spend an entire
He's getting fouled.
Being like,
he's getting fouled. He's getting fouled. Yeah.
I believe we have shirts that just say he's getting fouled. He's getting fouled somewhere in the Knicks Film School merch store.
It was the only time Tibbs would get animated in post games. It was
literally ever with Jalen Brunson's getting fouled. And this is a guy that usually gets to the line a ton. And with Mike Brown and those 2 weeks where he just the relationship with him and Cat seemed to really boil over. And then suddenly he's just great players adjust. That's what great players do. Karl-Anthony, great player, being a great player. What? He's just a great player.
Mike Brown got a note from above, I think.
A little bit, you think?
Yeah, he got a note.
It's why one of these post games where you just love for him to be like, yeah, he's getting fouled. Now, Cat, I think you'd agree, is a tad. The best way I could say it, and I mean it lovingly, can be a bit clumsy in his drives. So it being not as graceful to the eye of a referee, they may see the contact, but they see Cat clumsily driving and not thinking that the defender or the fouling is causing the clumsiness. It's why I'm trying to understand where his bad whistle comes from, even if I agree, just what does he have to do to get a call? Shout out to Jeff, who consistently says it. He just inherited Carmelo Anthony's whistle, in that sense. You also brought it up, and I don't hope he's hurt. I would say if he is secretly hurt and he's nursing it and playing through it, it would be an explanation. If the only explanation is he's 30, that's something to be concerned about, because he's not going to be younger anytime soon.
Did he have a knee? He had a few ailments.
Yeah.
Last season was the knee.
Year.
So this year hasn't flared up, right?
Nothing reported.
Just the back, right? There was a back, but that was more recent. That wasn't he had already been having struggles.
Right.
Before that came. Yeah. I don't know. It would be odd that it would just sort of the athletic diminishing aspect would just occur that quickly, but maybe that's just how it happens for bigs as you get to that age. And look, I don't know, he would, if no one, I don't know if this is a synergy stat, they probably can track it, of how many times he has hit the floor in his career. He's got to lead the league in terms of time, for at least for centers or bigs. That's 250 pounds 2-3 times a game just hitting hardwood. That has to take a toll, even if you don't have an injury, that's gonna mess with you a little bit. But he still is extremely valuable, and they need. I keep going back to Detroit because I just think they're the right now an intractable problem for the Knicks. They're going to have to figure out a way for him to generate maybe not his normal offensive like level even this year, but he's going to have to score points for them. And it's not going to probably be it's not going to be game 4 where he's just making insane shots. Like they're going to have to build out ways for him to get to offense. And that's going to, and they play well. They played Detroit first game out of the All-Star break. So we'll hopefully get a look at it, but that's going to have to be a big priority for this team to have counters to what Detroit's going to do and make life hard on Brunson. Like where's the offense going to come from after that?
Last topic, DJ. And I realized the DJ could stand for dismisser of Jazz, the defender, the Utah Jazz, and their tanking of shenanigans of late. They've won 2 straight, so maybe karma is going to work in our favor. The tanking issue in the NBA. I put this on the rundown because every time I've been scrolling the internet, there's a tweet of you fighting a good fight against just some of what the Jazz have been doing. For those who don't know, they just traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. They will play Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. for 3 quarters and sit them in the 4th quarter. Then there's what's going on in Washington, where Trae Young and Anthony Davis are just like not going to play the rest of the season. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr. is now officially declared out for the rest of the year with an injury I've never heard of. Like Indiana played all their guys against the Knicks, sat all their guys the next night against Brooklyn, still won the next night. The NBA fined both the Jazz and the Pacers $500,000 to the Jazz, $100,000 to the Pacers for their roster management and them not making their guys available. It's a simple question I put on the rundown, DJ. Like, how do you fix this? The state of tanking in the NBA right now. Because I agree with the tweet you put out today was like, if you're rooting for a team, an NBA team that is trying to win games, be grateful because a third of the league is currently not trying to win games. Which
is just an insane number. And I know this year was always going to be different because this draft class is considered to be like a generational, especially 1 through 5 or 1 through 4, maybe. So we knew this was going to be the case, but it's literally a third of the league actively trying to lose. And I think folks lose sight of the fact that this is an entertainment product first and foremost. And if you have a third of the league trying to lose, then your product has gotten to the point where it is no longer reputable. It is damaged. And the concern with the NBA right now, and you saw in that NBA communication regarding the fines, Adam Silver had a very poignant quote in terms of what they plan on doing. Obviously didn't have details, but they are going to look at this and look for ways to fix this because they know that the narrative right now in terms of the games, and if you go back to like last year, the talk about how the game has gotten very, it's one note. Everyone shoots threes, and the quality of the game it's the same from team 1 through team 30. And Adam Silver had to address this in the his midseason press conference at the All-Star break, and it was a big topic of at play. And this year, tanking has become like the topic in terms of like what the most locked in fans are talking about, and it's just not good business for if you're the NBA when there's so much of the discussion is about there's too many games, there's too many injuries, the quality of play is too monotonous, like there's not enough diversity in terms of the styles of how the game is being played. So I think Adam Silver is very sensitive to that, and he's going to have to figure out a way to fix this. I don't necessarily have the silver bullet. I do think I think flattening the lottery odds might be the easiest, maybe least aggressive way of doing this that doesn't completely take the one way these small market teams have to really become great, which is getting great players in the draft. So I do think you need to preserve that. Like, I'm not one of those where I heard Bomani Jones talking about like, just get rid of the draft. I don't think you can
abolish the draft. Yeah.
Abolish the draft. I don't think you can go that route because how are these teams going to get players? Like, I just think it would be too hard, even if you had a cap.
One thing I'll say, I mean, we did just see Trae Young and Anthony Davis end up in Washington. And we did just see, like, Jaren Jackson Jr. get traded to Utah. I did have the look. I'm never going to be a proponent of abolishing the draft. I like working for Sam Vecini, but like, I do think there is something to the new CBA, somewhat forcing rosters to not be so like inflated with the with so like you won't like what the Knicks, the decisions they're gonna have to make pretty soon, the decisions OKC is gonna have to make. Are you not gonna be able to have so many high priced guys that they're gonna have to play somewhere? So if you want to get paid, and we've seen this recently where guys will leave contending situations because they want to go get paid. Well, Utah has one of the big slots open. This small market team has one of the big slots open. I wonder if that will help even it out. I'm with you. I don't know if there is like a silver bullet, like you said. I don't think there is an easy fix. I know regulation is like the most drastic thing I've heard, where it's like you have to, if you want to be a playoff team, you have to be over 500 for 2 straight seasons first, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You would agree that there's going to be a change, or there?
I think this is the most loud I've ever heard it, and with how much TV money has been now dedicated, with especially now that they've made the viewing experience. I don't know how you felt this season, DJ. At times, so inconvenient that there's 3 different streaming services. There's all the subscriptions that you need to have. Like, I have DirecTV Stream. That's my primary streaming service. I'm lucky enough that like I can just watch Peacock or I could watch NBC or watch ESPN and I'm fine. And then there's the random game on Amazon that I'm like, oh yeah, I have to watch it there too. And if the league is going to now force people to, not just invest in the product, the entertainment product like you're talking about, it's going to need to also be reciprocated on the other side of thing. And I'm just talking about the TV product. There's just no hope for going to a game anymore and hoping that your players are going to play, that the players that you're allegedly buying jerseys for or putting on posters and, wanting to go watch play. There's no guarantee anymore. It's why we've been blessed, like you said, as Knicks fans, to have a Tom Thibodeau coach the team where he shamed anybody that didn't want to play certain nights, and to now have a Knicks team that is contending and trying to win games. So I'm with you that I think something's going to be done. I just don't know. What the fix is.
Yeah, I mean it's not an easy one, because if it was easy, they would have done it already. Because this is not a new problem. It just feels like this year it's kind of hit the apex. And look, if you are a non-interventionist and you're like, this is just a this year thing. Next year, I think the next 2 drafts are supposed to be like pretty bad. Like teams are just not going to sell out as much in the tanking thing. But I just think it's, once you have the commissioner's attention, once he's putting his name on a statement to disseminate to everyone, they're going to make a change or changes. I would imagine they go as least drastic as possible. That'll have the most bang for their buck, but a change is coming. I just think we need to remember that this is not just the team needs to be self-interested in their own personal team gain, which is what they should be doing. But Utah should be doing it this way because it's, I know technically breaking the rules, but the payoff is going to be so much greater if they get the number 1 pick. But we have to look at this holistically. The league can't function this way, and we need to take this out of the game as best as possible, because it's going to be just an insidious aspect to how the NBA is talked about if this continues. And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't continue until the NBA makes it not able to continue. So
my fantasy baseball league way back when, if you got a top 5 pick one year, if you got one of the top 3 picks, you were ineligible to be in the top 3 the following season. Like, you had to, the highest you could finish, if you finished last place, which we did like football, it was just ranking the bottom teams.
Yeah.
You like the highest you could finish was 4th, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they should do. Follow my old fantasy baseball.
There you go.
League. That's that's clearly the foolproof plan.
You need to send a letter to the league, A, and then B, if you get the Reese Arche draft, and then the next draft is the Wemby draft or whatever, you get the number, or you know what I mean? Like if
you get number 3, no, that's to your point. I get 1 in the Reese Arche draft. Yeah. I can't finish any higher than 4 in this draft. It would incentivize me to win if I can't finish higher than 4.
Which would be really shitty luck, but yeah, it would. I don't hate it. That's not bad.
It's something. I know KOC, Kevin O'Connor, proposed freezing the lottery odds at a certain date. Like it's frozen at this. I know some have suggested the NBA Cup. I just don't think you can determine your draft order in December. Plus, like, when would you be able to determine? Like, when would you be able to start that? Like right now. So
so the NBA Cup winner would
get the number 1 pick. Like the
that's
top
always
8
been weird to me
lottery,
because like these players are like. They're playing so they can get a guy that's going to replace them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or, it's like a weird incentive for players to try to win a game so you can draft like a college kid. I don't know. It feels weird.
Bingo. Yeah. We have 2 super chats before we get out of here. Thank you everybody for your generosity and for tuning in tonight. Jeffrey Glynn, what do you make of the Knicks defense overall this year? They've been playing great over the past 10 games or so. But do you think it's sustainable? You and I discussed this, or I hinted at it when I was teasing Mr. Danishevsky. The Knicks currently have the 11th best defense in the NBA, according to NBA.com. 0.1 behind the Phoenix Suns for 10th in defensive rating. It's a 112.8 on the season, points per 100 possessions. If you separate it to the last 12 games in which they're 10-2, the Knicks have the best defense in the NBA over that 12-game stretch, 101.4. So, DJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden you look at the talent on this roster defensively. Full health, right? OG, Mitch, Mikal, Deuce, Hart, Alvarado. Yeah, and if you want to throw in one of Sochan, Diawara in the mix too. They've done a really good job of building out a lot of high-quality defensive talent around Brunson and Towns, and it's just snuck up on me a little bit just writing these guys down. Like they all of a sudden have 1, 2, 3, like 6 or 7 rotation defenders that are at least above average. And some of them, obviously, OG, Mitch, at their best, are elite. Mikal's very good. Deuce, very good. They just have a lot of defensive talent all of a sudden. And I don't know how many teams I would take over them in terms of just talent on defense. Obviously, OKC, probably San Antonio because of Wemby, Detroit. Once you get past those 3, like maybe Houston, I don't think the Knicks are going to get to like top 6, top 7, but they should be a top 10 defense the rest of the way. And there's probably upside to be in terms of from this point forward to be like a legitimate like top 6 or 7 defense through the rest of the year, just based on a coach that I think is a good coach in terms of coaching defense and a group right now defensively that has just a lot of talent. And the front office deserves a lot of credit for how they've figured out to bring in these guys to help just up the level defensively. It's been impressive. So I think this team's legitimate defensively. I don't think they're a great defense, but they don't need to be when you think about their offense. Like top 5 offense, top 10 defense. Like that's a contender level quality in terms of those 2 areas. So yeah, I think it's legit. You're muted.
Sorry, you noticing anything differently that they've done from an adjustment standpoint in the last 12 games to improve the defense?
They've simplified it. So early in the year, it was a lot of they weren't so concerned like most teams are about like let's push the ball to the sideline. Let's keep it out of the paint because they were loading up so aggressively in those driving gaps that they didn't really feel the need to do that. What that did was then open themselves up to these like one pass away kicks to the wings for these wide open threes. This sort of it felt like the worst moment of that was at Phoenix on that West Coast trip. First quarter, I think Dylan Brooks hit 3 threes. They just got open three after open three. And it was because the Phoenix team was running that wheel concept that the Knicks have run, where you're just attacking that gap defender. So that's so aggressive, which the Knicks have been, and you're just generating all these open threes. Well, instead of doing that, what they're doing now is it's very Tibbs-ish in that they're trying to push the ball to the sideline, call it icing, downing the screen, keeping it away from the middle of the floor. That's takes a little pressure off the on-ball defender, like Mikal Bridges not having to aggressively fight over as many screens over the top with a traditional drop coverage. He needs to dictate the ball, usually to the weak hand side of the offensive player. So it's a little more, it takes a little more pressure off that player, and it just keeps everything on that side and just keeps the middle of your defense less exposed. So that's been the big difference in terms of schematics. And then Mitch has just been a monster, and he was not a good defender, at least to his standards, for the first 10 or so games, 15 games this year. He has completely flipped that, and he's been awesome. And the other aspect is Brunson's been really good for him. He's not been a traffic cone. He's been solid, and he does do a good job of, when he's guarding the ball, to use his size to push the ball to the sideline. That's a thing. That's a skill and area that he's pretty good at. So yeah, those are the big changes, and I think those things should work out. There's going to be times where teams are going to pop their big against that ice coverage against the Knicks drop, and they're going to get open threes. You saw Indiana take advantage of that, but there's just not a lot of teams, especially in the East, that have that great shooting big that can really attack that. So they should be a top 10 defense the rest of the way at minimum, maybe a little more upside there.
Well said. You seem really researched on this topic. It's almost as like you did a film session on it.
I did. Yeah, so it's fresh in mind.
Available on the Knicks Film School Patreon in the Brunson tier. We will plug that at the end of tonight's show. Last but not least, Jessica Elsner. Time for some Shakespeare, DJ. What men dare do, what men may do, what men daily do, not knowing what they do. This is the character Claudio in the Shakespeare play, What Much Ado About Nothing. And then also, I'm meh about Sochan. Claudio, KFS. Jessica, it's always good to hear from you.
Yes.
And to get me to quote Shakespeare.
This was the play is called Claudio, or is that a character?
The play, it's a character in the play. It might be a short story, to be honest. Much Ado About Nothing is the name of the play. Yeah, all right. I'm very weirdly in a very small, half-assed Shakespeare deep dive because of the movie Hamnet. I don't know if you saw it or have. It's going to be. It was nominated for Oscars. The lead in the movie, Jessie Buckley, is probably going to win Best Actress. Was one of my top. So I saw it last Friday, and I've been thinking about it ever since. It's one of those types of movies that just stick with you. Anyway, the movie's about the real life William Shakespeare and the story of he and his wife having something happen to their son Hamnet, and it's what inspired him to write the play, The Tragedy of Hamlet. So
wow, okay,
yeah,
man, this is a side of you I didn't know existed. I mean,
this is a
very
very
fun.
New side, man.
Okay,
when I'm sitting here editing and I have a couple minutes to I usually have something that I deep dive while I'm sitting here, and there's a 10-minute export time, and it's all right, let me check this out. It's been like Shakespeare and stuff. Recently, the Tragedy of Macbeth. Obviously, I've seen a bunch of the movie adaptations of it. William Shakespeare, who knew? Complicated dude in the I guess the 1600s was when he started.
Sounds right.
Becoming the modern day. Who's the most famous screenwriter? I guess William Goldman would be a great one. I don't know if William Shakespeare and William Goldman is a apt comp, but regardless, yes, this is a very small corner of me diving into it. But thank you, Jessica, for having me quote Shakespeare. DJ, I think that does it for another edition of KFS X's and O's. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
You mentioned the Brunson tier. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I will have some sort of first half of the season look at what this team, maybe like a look forward. I think the defense is the most interesting thing. So we talked about like how sustainable the defense is going forward. And then I need to do a deep dive, but some kind of a dive onto Jeremy Sochan. So they'll expect something on him because I need to learn a little more about him before his Knicks debut.
Yes, which it sounds like will be right out of the All-Star break against the Detroit Pistons. We'll be missing their two centers, Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren, right after the break. We've got content going up during the All-Star break, so expect something new on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Follow us on all socials, Knicks fans, if you want to see any reactions to the All-Star weekend festivities. I just saw Fred, and he actually brought to my attention all of the festivities used to be nighttime festivities. The dunk contest, the three-point contest, 5 Eastern start time for both the All-Star game. Now, it's because at 8 o'clock, the Olympics are going on, and NBC has prioritized that over the NBA and their festivities. Get used to that, by the way. Not the Olympics prioritizing NBA stuff, but next year All-Star Weekend falls on the Sunday of the Super Bowl. So that should be an interesting conversation for Adam Silver. I would advise you right now to move it back a week or move it up a week. But that being said, check out all of us on socials or just the Knicks Film School account at Nick Film SKOOL. Earlier today, Jeff and Sean did an episode of KFS After School. They did a fun Leon Rose do-over draft. They got through 4 rounds, so 8 total picks. One interesting pick that I'll tease that everybody should go watch that draft and see what Sean and Jeff came up with. And then, as DJ said, check out bonus content. Benjy when he returns and DJ cranking out stuff on the Brunson tier. If you want to just sign up for in the Brunson tier, you also get access to Mellow tier content, which is this podcast feed, uninterrupted, ad-free. So maybe that's something you want to check out. And obviously the Substack with Mr. Macri every day, brand new newsletter. So check it out there. DJ, I missed you. It's been a while.
Missed you too.
Yeah, we
Always.
haven't had the chance to interact as much this year. And I'm glad that we got to do it for about 80 minutes tonight. And I will let you know what I learn about William Shakespeare the next time I talk to you. Hopefully this goes away soon. I will say that. Hopefully this isn't like we talk in a couple of months. It's like, yeah, I've read 7 books. He's actually it's replaced my love for basketball now. Until next time, Knicks fans.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the All-Star break, and we will speak with you soon. Peace.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.